Great, thank you for that introduction, Jay. So as Jay said, hello everyone, I'm Varsha Borker and I'm in 10th grade. So today I'll be talking to you about taxes and why they are important. Next slide. So first, let's just take a quick look at what taxes are. So a basic definition for taxes is that they're essentially involuntary fees that are enforced by the government. These are for individuals or for large corporations, and these can be on the local, state, or federal scales. So there are several different types of taxes. For example, we have something called an income tax, which is a percentage of an individual's earnings that are filed to the federal government. There's something called a sales tax, which is just a tax levied on certain goods and services. So for example, if you're going to a store and you're buying, I don't know, shoes or something, there's going to be a sales tax on them. There's also something called a property tax, which is based on the value of the land or property that you own. And there's also something called a tariff, for example, which is just a tax on imported goods to the country from other countries. Another very important type of tax is called the payroll tax, which deducts money directly from your paycheck to help you pay for your Medicare or Social Security. So for those of you who don't know, Medicare and Social Security, those programs are for helping in paying for your medical or health insurance. So now that we've talked about what they are, let's see what taxes are used for. So as I said before, Americans pay many different types of taxes, types of income taxes and property taxes and sales taxes and much more. But some people do disagree on how high taxes should be. So some people think that taxes are so high that the economy can't grow, and other people believe that taxation as a whole helps provide for the common good and distribute income. But either way, if you could click on the next, yeah. Either way, taxes do help fund things such as public works and services and maintaining infrastructures. As you can see the images here, the bridges, the airports, the highways. And overall, taxes are just used for the betterment of the economy and all of the people living in the country. Now let's take a look at how you can pay for your taxes. So as I said before, taxes are a percentage of a taxpayer's earnings that's given to the government. So what's important about this is that taxes have to be paid and they're compulsory. So, and also the deliberate failure to pay your taxes is called tax evasion, and tax evasion is actually something that's punishable by law. Most governments will use like a certain agency or a certain department to collect your taxes. So in the United States specifically, this is done by the IRS, also known as the Internal Revenue Service. So if you do owe taxes, there are several different ways that you can pay for them. So the IRS offers several different options. So there's something called an electronic funds withdrawal, which is paying using your bank account just online. There's something called direct pay, which is, as you can probably guess from the name, just paying directly from your checkings account or savings account. You can also use credit cards or debit cards to pay for your taxes, again, online or by phone or with a different mobile device. Next slide. Okay, so now let's take a look at why we have to pay taxes. So first of all, paying your taxes is just considered to be a civic duty, and it's required by the law. So if you don't pay your taxes, the agency that oversees the taxes, remember the IRS, requires you to pay your taxes, or else you would face penalties such as fines or even going to jail. Next. So now let's take a look at how taxes are in the US specifically. Okay, so the US has something that is called a progressive tax system. This means that a higher percentage of tax revenues are collected from high-income individuals or corporations rather than low-income individual earners. It's just based on how much they can pay for their taxes. So again, taxes are imposed on the federal, state, and local levels, as I said previously. So for example, the federal government looks at income taxes, corporate taxes, and payroll taxes. The state looks at sales taxes, and municipalities or like local governments look at property taxes. Okay, so as I just said, the US has a progressive tax system. So as taxable income increases, it's taxed off at higher rates. Additionally, tax schedules and other rates will change based on if they're heads of households or if they're married to someone, and that can also change based on that. Next. Also, there's something called tax brackets, which is just basically the range of the amount of money the taxpayer has to pay depending on how much they have for their income, and this is adjusted for inflation each year. Next slide. So now let's look at something called the W-2 form. So the W-2 form is arguably the most common form that employed people are going to fill out. It shows the amount of taxes that are withheld from your paycheck for the year, and it's used to file your federal taxes and your state taxes. So basically the form requires you to report your salary and reports the taxes that are withheld from your paycheck. So the image shown up here on the slide is just an example of how the form is filled out. So you can see that they have their name written down, their address, and other personal information. Next slide. So I'd like to conclude with how taxes affect me personally. So I know that a lot of people think that taxes are really bothersome and time-consuming, but as I reasoned before, they are very necessary. As I said before, many people can benefit from taxes. So a very specific example is for public school students like me. I'm a public school student. So with the help of taxpayers, schools can be funded. New schools with better facilities can be built, and students can also benefit with access to new technology for learning purposes. So a really great example of this is actually right now. So many students around the world are doing online school, and almost every student has like an access to a Chromebook or a certain laptop at home so that they can have an education from home, and a good one too. Additionally, as a student, I am very invested in the sciences, and tax can also help me out of school as well. So for example, NASA, which is like a space exploration agency, many of you have probably heard of it. It's a government organization, and it's funded with taxpayers. So that could also help me out of school and get funds. So building all these rockets and all this research is help. You've gotten that from taxpayers. So here's my bibliography, all the sources that I use for the information that I've included on this presentation. And thank you for your time. If you do have any questions, please ask.